Day 2 of the Lori Vallow Daybell trial, the state presenting more evidence against the so-called Doomsday Mom, aiming to blow up the claim of self-defense in the fatal shooting of her then-husband Charles Vallow. Law enforcement taking the stand, bringing us back to the crime scene of July 11th, 2019, when Lori drove off moments after her brother pulled the trigger. I'm Justin Lum, and we are on the record. Day 2 of the Lori Vallow Daybell trial just wrapped up, and we are here to recap it all. Fox 10 investigator Justin Lum here with Special Projects EP George Obi. So far, we are now on our 5th witness in this trial, Daniel Coons, a retired Chandler PD detective. A couple jurors have been excused. We're down to 14 jurors. A lot of housekeeping going on today. Lori Vallow Daybell wants her case dismissed for... this is like the 4th time she's motioned for her case to be dismissed. It had to do with a discovery, and she believes that not all of the data on her husband, as she calls him, Charles Vallow's phone, has been provided to her. So she wants a hearing for that. And then at the end of the day, we had the judge tell her there's a bad habit she has of cutting witnesses off and continue to talk as they're answering her question. And then the fact that she has subpoenaed some witnesses to include a few detective. So it started slow, but a lot went on today.
A lot went on. Look, we knew this was going to be a little sloppy, so the judge, I think, is doing a great job kind of pacing this case, giving Lori some leeway in her cross-examination. But a big day for the state, because I think they brought up their first, I think the most powerful witness they've had.
If there was a star witness so far, and we'll have time for more, this was the guy, Daniel Coons, because he takes you through the crime scene. Yesterday, it was about the body camera footage, the demeanor of Lori Vallow Daybell and her late brother, Alex Cox, the shooter in this case. Obviously, she's accused of conspiring with her brother, Alex, to shoot Charles Vallow. So we get to hear a lot from Daniel Coons regarding the baseball bat in the fight, and then how there was no blood found on this baseball bat. We got to see this Rawlings bat. We've seen photos, but I think, obviously, for the jury, that is so important for them to see that. And then the state is bringing out evidence that there was no biological material found on the bat that hit the back of the head, allegedly, of Alex Cox. And then we see, or we have shown viewers, the 1-inch cut, not a huge injury. And then how the bullets entered Charles's body. We are getting into the autopsy slowly but surely, and we haven't even heard from the medical examiner.
Right, and this is, again, as the state pointed out in their opening arguments, that this whole thing was started because Alex went over there to confront Charles because there was claims that he was being violent and being abusive, right? So the state today made it clear, setting up the scene for the jury, almost putting them inside the home, taking them room to room, showing them where the body was found, and then walking Coons through the home and saying, all right, when you guys went here, what did you find? Did you find any blood? No. Find any evidence of it? No. And it was all controlled there in the front room, the blood in the kitchen area. This is a textbook for what the state wants to do. They want to walk the jury through the actual crime scene.
If you're playing devil's advocate and you're arguing, okay, maybe the fight and the struggle happened in this one isolated space in this room and no other rooms, and this fight happened here. Still, based on the evidence with the bullet, the 2 bullets, but really the second shot, it is clear that Charles Vallow, according to the evidence, was flat on his back, and the bullet went through his abdomen and out through underneath his left shoulder. And each detail is presented step by step by Treena Kay. She is not pulling punches on this. She needs the jury to understand exactly how Charles Vallow died.
Right, and exactly where his body was facing. Again, painting a picture for the jury where these two were in relation to each other and where Charles was when he was shot. Was he, again, if you're proving or trying to determine self-defense, you need to paint that for the jury. And I think we're getting now into that. That's why I said Coons probably the best witness they've had so far.
So we are going to take a listen right now to exactly what was said as Treena Kay did her direct exam with Daniel Coons regarding this second bullet.
When you were at the medical examiner's office as they were performing the autopsy, Did you learn additional evidence that helped support your opinion as to whether or not Mr. Vallow was laying on the ground when he was shot in the abdomen and the bullet exited his left shoulder?
Yes.
What was that additional evidence that you considered when reaching this opinion?
Well, I had asked for specific things for the doctor to include in the examination that would help me with rendering that information. One of them was to measure the location of the bullet strikes on the body, both the entry and the exits. And then I also asked for the use of trajectory rods, if it was available, to help demonstrate the angles of the shots so that I could visibly see everything. They have the unique experience of being able to see the actual damage to the organs as it's passing through. It's not all super clear for me for that part, so the trajectory rods help out a lot.
Having observed the location of the injuries, that measurement, the trajectory rods, did that further support or go against your opinion that Charles Vallow was laying on the ground when he was shot in the abdomen?
It further supported it.
In your opinion, then, can you list all the factors that you rely upon to determine that, or to reach your opinion that Charles Vallow was laying on the floor when he was shot in the abdomen and the shot exited his left shoulder?
The consistencies of a lot of the evidence that I had personally seen. The trajectory rods helped establish that alone, where it shows the entry into the lower left abdomen and then the exit out through the left shoulder blade area. The divot in the floor that was located underneath the body.
And if you want to watch all of that testimony, I urge you to take a look at our stream on our playlist. This testimony, just a direct exam, was about 2.5 hours in the afternoon session, the longest by far, hence why we're saying Coons is a key witness so far in this complex trial. And then it was Lori's turn to cross-exam, and they had to get the jury out of the room, and they needed to give her time to get her bearings together for this cross-exam because she had witnessed a lot. And that was interesting to see that she's getting this leeway. And
I wonder, too, if her initial line of questioning for him changed at any point during his testimony with the state, where she needed a moment to go, okay, I need to confer with my paralegal, my co-counsel, because clearly I think there were some things that were said by Coons that may have changed her approach of how she was going to cross-examine.
And we're seeing that more and more, where she takes a moment, she calls time out and basically talks to her counsel. We've seen the sidebars. This is all new to her, so I don't think we're surprised at that. But once she got into cross-examination, it got even more awkward, I think, because we started talking about topics in this whole situation that Coons was testifying to that just didn't seem to make sense or be relevant. And we're getting a lot of reaction in our chat today as far as what she was asking about the trajectory of the casings, about stippling. Go ahead and Google the definition of that, and we know that there was no stippling according to this witness in Daniel Coons. And it just gets very weird.
It does, and there were a lot of things that she brought up that clearly the medical examiner had determined did not happen or was not an issue. And so, but she kept kind of going back to it, and even the chat kind of picked it up. Like, what is the point? Where are we going with this? To the point I almost felt like the judge saved her at the end of the day, saying, is this a good time to, take our break for the night? And she didn't object to it at all. He said, look, if you have a few more questions, you can ask. She's like, nope.
And it's only day 2.
Right.
And she's got to get through this whole trial representing herself. The state has 21 witnesses. It's slated for 5 to 6 weeks. She's taking on a lot as she tries to get witnesses subpoenaed, including detectives that she's going to question. She mentioned the landlord of the home that she wants to question. So is she going to be worn down? Well, we've said this time and again, she has nothing to lose. She says she's been studying case law for the past 5 years. In her mind, no one knows the case better than her. But we talked to our expert today on our panel, of 4 legal experts, Benjamin Taylor, is saying that, yeah, having that poker face is important, and they're watching her. They're watching her every move. She shows her expressions on her sleeve.
What better way than, I guess, for a jury to pick, for them in a case where they know they have to decide the fate of a defendant, what better way to do that when you have the defendant talking this much and being animated in a way? I mean, she's not really that animated other than, as we mentioned, she needs to tighten up some of the testimony that she's giving at the end of her questions. But I mean, you're getting you're getting a look inside a defendant that you wouldn't ordinarily get. You get one opportunity in most cases if they take the stand in their own defense. But here you have a defendant who is every day out in front of the jury asking questions and I think giving them some insight into who this person is.
And we're seeing a lot of objections from the state based on hearsay and her struggle to keep Alex Cox's statement, her dead brother's statements out of this because that's not allowed. The judge has said every objection on that will be sustained if you bring up Alex Cox and question the witness leading to what Alex had said after the shooting. But I want you guys to listen to this exchange. This is Vallow Daybell doing cross with Daniel Coons about his training as a firearms instructor and what she believes or asked about training to shoot a threat in the center mass. This was just fascinating. I mean, watching this was just so interesting to see her question him and what she may be alluding to. Take a listen.
So when you're taking a gun class, is it common for them to say, is it common that they tell you to shoot center mass? Is that a common term?
That is what we train as police officers, is to shoot center mass. It has the highest probability of guaranteeing a hit on the adversary that you're trying to shoot.
Right. So if you were being attacked, you should point at center mass. Is that correct?
That is what's trained, and because stress can obviously create issues, but yes.
Is it a common term to say to center mass?
No, that is something that I've heard, but I wouldn't classify it as common.
Would you teach that in your class?
It depends on what class is and what we're actually doing. If it's standard officers, no, I don't tell them to always shoot to center mass, no.
So first off, I mean, what is the reaction? I would like to know the reaction of the jurors, but why and what she was fishing for regarding shooting a threat in the center mass. And Kuhn says, no, that's not what I teach.
My interpretation was that she's trying to set up that, again, reinforcing this idea that her brother was
defending her.
Yeah, and again, the nuance of that seems a stretch, right? I don't know that the jury's going to pick up on it. Look, we've already established, at least police have, that Alex shot Charles in self-defense.
Shot him twice, yeah.
Yeah, and so the state would then have to disprove that. I don't know. Center mass, I mean, how many of the jurors, you talked about it in the jury selection, all these jurors own weapons, right? They all have guns. I mean...
10 of them. I don't know if any of them been excused, but 10 out of the 16, I believe, said they own guns.
But how many of those gun owners have ever used the term, understand what the term is? Again, this is the line of questioning that you just don't understand where she's going with it. Maybe, we'll get a better idea when the morning session tomorrow morning starts and she gets another opportunity.
So is she saying or trying to get a statement that Alex Cox did self-defense the textbook way and shot Charles Vallow twice in the center mass, and that's what happened? I don't know.
Or is center mass used by people who are, premeditating a murder? Is that something that, an assassin would know how to do and make it look like self-defense?
And what's interesting is that through the Idaho case, we know that Alex Cox went to the gun range a lot leading up to the day that prosecutors say he shot at Tammy Daybell in her driveway in Idaho. Mm-hmm. So we're fast forwarding to the future in this case in October 2019. And he misfires. Like nothing happens. I don't know what goes wrong. And then before that, October 2nd, 2019, he fires allegedly at Brandon Boudreaux and Gilbert, and it shatters his window. But so this guy doesn't hit. But obviously in this case, he shot and killed Charles right in front of him. And I think there were text messages too in the Idaho trial, yeah, that she was talking about how he needed to train on his shooting. So, but obviously the jury doesn't know this,
Right.
and here she is talking about, the textbook way of shooting and putting down a threat. So there was a lot that we got into. Again, to recap, so far it's been law enforcement. It's been 3 people from Chandler PD, 2 of them retired, 2 Chandler firefighters, and so now we get to see the cross-examination tomorrow and how Lori Vallow Daybell tries to poke holes in Coons' testimony. She gets a fresh start tomorrow.
Yeah, and again, she'll have a whole night to think about the line of questioning. Interesting to see how much longer Coons will be on the stand, but we do expect Treena Kay, the prosecutor, to redirect at some point. I would imagine she'll find some reason to bring the jury back into whatever line of questioning and direction she wants to go. But yeah, Coons in for another at least hour or 2, I would expect, in the morning.
It only gets more interesting. Thank you all for watching On the Record. Subscribe and hit the bell, and we will be back with another recap on day 3.